Yesterday, we were talking about how we could see some fluctuation in price throughout the week, and you have to ask yourself with this red day today, what exactly are investors waiting for? We're going to get into that and a little bit more with some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, AMD, and we're actually going to look at Meta again this week. So really come back every single night because we're giving you those daily ranges, and let's hop into the SPY. One thing about the SPY that we need to point out on the daily is these divergences are starting to pile up. We have a new one forming as of right now, and if we actually get one more solid down day, we could see that actually confirm and possibly start to try to reverse this trend. We got to wait for it to get in negative territory. We've seen this market dip down before, but when it curls back up, we see more positivity. That would be your bullish thing. If this wants to curl down and then curl back up, see price kind of base out and then make another move higher, this thing could extend for quite some time. I'm not leaning towards that. I think this week will be a big week for the stock market, and we could be seeing a trend change as of this week. And what are people waiting for? Well, they're waiting for those data drops. Tomorrow we get our first data drop. I believe it's durable goods. And then we have going into Wednesday, we will have the important GDP, which could actually come out as good for the market. So we're actually going to see if we see some kind of plunge down. Maybe that's bought back up with the GDP. And then the big elephant in the room will be the PCE, the most important thing that the Fed actually does pay attention to. And so if that ticks up with CPI ticking up, it could mean bad news for this market. But it doesn't mean it all has to come crashing down right now, and investors are waiting to see what that actual data is. And I suggest you do the same thing and react accordingly to that price action after that news comes out. Okay, after we get some data, you got to pay attention. But for now, we're getting this MACD behavior that we've seen before, and a lot of the time we do like to turn up with this type of behavior. So really all we have to do is pay attention to this 30-minute here coming sideways and down. Looks like a solid little flag here on the 30-minute. We got out of those overbought conditions down here on the RSI. If this wants to turn up, it's a good shot that we're actually going to go to the top side of this weekly expected move. We have to be ready for tomorrow though, because that resistance could come in right at 508.66, which will be the top side of our daily risk range for the SPY. This is all the options market has priced in. And then the downside here, 503.32 to the downside. So if we do get excited throughout the day, we can see this pull back down because 68% of the time we do land back within this zone. We landed back in our zone today. Now, the cool part about the bottom side of this risk range, something I'm leaning towards, is this gap support in here becoming pretty important. And if we do see that dip down pretty briefly, we actually could see that curl back up into positive territory. So I really think we might see another push in this move, or we might get some wonky price action in order to head higher soon. So be a little bit cautious if we get outside of this in the morning. The only other thing I would say about this is if we do get excited, get out of there early in the morning, and we do have room left on this RSI, we could be seeing one of those 32% times where we actually see prices surge upward with that good news, because when you get outside of these ranges, you have that 68% chance to land back within it. You have a 32% chance to see more rapid buying or something like that. And same thing the other way. So I really think if we do come down to the outside of this, maybe to retest this area, which would be the trend line between our two most recent highs and that gap support, it would be a very good place to bounce from. Qs on the daily, we're not seeing that divergence as of right now. Actually, as of right now, we're kind of rejecting this crossing to the upside. Okay, so people are waiting for some more data, especially in the tech stocks. We saw that little divergence up here on the shorter time frames, but we weren't able to cross up on this MACD, meaning that positivity can't continue until we actually see that crossing up of that MACD. That's when the real positivity sets in. So as of right now, looks like we may be seeing a little bit lower prices. As we go into the 30-minute, you're going to see similar MACD behavior here. Nothing about this screams rapid selling. Nothing really is screaming to me that this is going to flop, crash down, anything like that. And our support for our daily range here is 433.45 to the downside. That resistance up above us will be 439.65. So I'm really looking for, if this wants to come down to this range, for some kind of bounce. But what will the story be here? Is that going to be some kind of cup filling and then we get a bounce to then actually get that handle to head lower? Or are we actually going to see this as some kind of fake out, use this as support and see that head higher? All I'm going to pay attention to as of tomorrow is going to be this 30 minutes. So do come back in the morning if you're available for the live video, because we watch this stuff for the first hour, hour and a half of trading to see what the reactions of that data will be. You have a little bit more room to the downside before you go into negative territory. So if this is some kind of hit fire move, we see some rapid buying back up, good chance that we're actually going to see this high broken and possibly go up towards that weekly expected move, way up towards 444.73. The last thing on the cues is pay attention to this monthly expected move. The last day of the month will be Thursday, so if we do get some kind of drop and a pop with GDP on Wednesday, we actually could be seeing some kind of 30-minute divergence up here right before a big event like PCE. And if we get outside of that top side here, that outside of that yellow line up here, we actually do have that 68% chance to land back within here by Thursday close. Okay, so we're going to be paying very close attention to this, and we may even stream a little bit longer on Thursday for you guys so we can hang with you a little longer, talk about what's happening in real time. We're about to get into Apple, but if you do find this information helpful and you like this information, you want to see more of it, you want us to continue making videos here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for me, show up to those live videos in the mornings. But as we get into Apple here, this is what is happening, which is kind of what we talked about. And I'm very glad I got out of my trade with Apple. I actually sold right up when I saw this weak bar here, took my 10% and ran, and I'm glad I did because this thing is really coming back down to a very important point, right? This is a very important area at this point. And really the story with Apple is it's stuck between two zones. The bullish zone would be up here past this gap fill right around 187. And then the bearish zone would be right around this 180 price point. Once we get down into this level, we'll be nearing the bottom side of our weekly expected move. And maybe this would be where we actually get a bounce, because we notice buyers are in this area. Buyers can rapidly buy Apple back up in this area. So that'll be very important to pay attention to. But Apple right now stuck in between two zones. Big thing we were paying attention to, curling over of the 2 hour in negative territory. That's happened. We see that negativity. Now we're starting to flag. Maybe this actually does want to head lower. Really want to pay attention in the morning to that reaction to the data that we're getting. Amazon fighting to stay at higher prices up here. I believe they have something going on with the Dow right now. I really want to pay attention to that news. But overall, what I'm really paying attention to, we had divergences here. That led to some kind of pullback. We see that curl back up in positive territory. Look at that positivity come back in. And we're sitting up here testing these highs over and over again. So really, if this starts to turn down, that would be your triple divergence here on Amazon, and we could see lower prices. But is that going to be just some kind of hip fire move and then we see some kind of bounce out of this to get a right shoulder? That could still happen over here. Now, the other point to this would be if it does curl up and we get good news all week, we can see that positivity continue, really paying attention to this MACD if it's able to remain in positive territory in the future. But I think if this curls over, we could be seeing one of the first signals from Amazon that we're actually going to see lower prices in a lot of things. We might be getting some kind of a little bit dramatic pullback. We might be seeing something that you would call a correction in this overall bullish move before we want to actually head higher, or this could be the crash. Tesla had a very good day, and overall what we were talking about with Tesla was, hey, this right here needs to buy up pretty quick or else we can start to test this low and go make a new one. So we don't want to go make a new one, don't want to stay in negative territory long. We actually see that buy back up into positive territory with some strength, and look at that strength coming forward. Now what's happening here is we're actually completing a big cupping in here. So we got this cup, now are we creating a handle to actually head higher? We've been targeting this zone here, 207.42 for quite some time now in the recent couple of weeks. So we want to pay attention to any kind of move upward from here on Tesla, because that could be ripped away from the PCE on Thursday. So really going to pay attention to tomorrow if this wants to actually dip down a little bit lower like we were talking about, get some buyers down in this area. That would be a good point for us to actually head higher. 30-minute, you can pay attention to this MACD, right? See if it's able to actually hold down here in negative territory. If it wants to curl back up, that would be a bullish sign. It would be a bullish sign that this is starting to base out. Maybe we're getting some kind of cup in here, and then we get a little mini cup or a little bit deeper cup in here to then head higher. So it really looks like Tesla is a pretty bullish looking thing at this point. You have to say it's bullish on the 30-minute because it's in positive territory, but it looks like it wants to roll over very soon. Is it going to be able to hold up with this support right here? That's really what I'm paying attention to with Tesla. NVIDIA is something we paid attention to a lot in today's live video, and we were overall stating how 800, there are a ton of calls at 800. I'll pull up that max pain for you guys to see it. We pulled it up live. So 800 is a very important number. The only thing that can kind of save it here is if it's able to hold above 800 and people try to short this thing, we could squeeze out those shorts. But right now, you're looking like you want to form some kind of cup. So you really want to see, is this 750 going to hold up and we're going to see another push higher? Well, we need to see this 30-minute curl back up to see that positivity. So even if we don't get all the way down here, pay attention. If this is able to base out and curl back up, that would mean to me that we're possibly going to test the highs, probably test that 800 number, or make a new high at this point. So with all the calls that are in the market for NVIDIA right now, if some kind of bearishness comes in and we remain below 800 for quite some time, people will start to go underwater and that sell button might start to get pushed. Just wanted to show you those call walls. We're seeing a big call wall around 800, and the only put wall we're really seeing is 700 start to pop up. But you notice how significant, it's almost double this over here at the 800 call marker. So pay attention to 750. If we start to lose that, we can head towards 700 pretty quick. And these people might be underwater and have to hit the sell button. So it's something to pay attention to. They could rotate into other stocks like Tesla, AMD, and things like that. But for now, if we remain below this 800 number for a little bit of time here throughout the week, we could be seeing lower prices in NVIDIA. Doesn't mean it has to fully reverse, right? We could just see those lower prices, enough people get bearish to where that actually sees some positivity here, curls up into positive territory. That is a positive thing overall. We could see another push higher, possibly to the upside of that weekly expected move, which you get on Patreon. Okay, so there's a link down below if you want those weekly risk ranges for NVIDIA down in the description. AMD, we were saying a similar thing, right? This could curl up. It's still in positive territory. We could still see that positivity to come test this high, but you have to pay attention to this. This is some flagging. We got a hip fire move at one point where we were up 2% right here. That dropped off. We ended up negative. So we have to pay attention to it. It really looks like some kind of flagging that wants to head lower at this point, but we have to wait for some news. We get some news in the morning. If that turns out to be good for the market, we could see another push higher. If it's bad, watch out if we start to lose this wick. You notice this gap is right almost where that wick is. This price point right here of about 171 is going to be pretty important for AMD. If it wants to lose that point, you can come fill this gap. Now that would be a good point for people to buy. We've seen people buy from that area a few times now. Boom, right there, one right here on the wick. We almost got down there, one right here, and this is actually where we got a little bit of a double bottom, and then we saw that price surge higher. So it is a point where people will start to think about investing back into AMD, that 164 price point. So pay attention to that going on into tomorrow. If we get bullish, pay attention to this MACD rolling over, maybe creating some kind of divergence up here. Meta, we gave you those weekly ranges, 502.42 to the upside, and we have 465.56 to the downside. So if we do want to see some negativity come in, this point right here would make a lot of sense to get a bounce from, right? We're in a channel at this point. We haven't lost that channel, and we're seeing it go a little bit up and to the right. So we are seeing some tapering up here at high levels. We showed you guys there's some divergences on Meta. We're going to go to a 2-hour to see that, but we're rejecting that cross as of right now. If we start to lose this, we can cut through this gap pretty quick, see if we get some kind of reaction at the bottom side of our weekly expected move. That 2-hour here actually was able to cross. I wanted to make sure to tell you guys that today we're actually seeing this triple divergence confirm. So now we have the opportunity for us to go into negative territory. Still want to pay attention, because if we're able to hold up here, we could get one more push, maybe to even come up to that top side of the weekly if we get that good reaction from GDP, maybe a positive reaction from PCE. But if we're up at elevated levels by the time PCE comes around and CPI ticked up, it's a good chance that PCE is ticking up, and the Fed will not like that, and that will scare out a lot of investors in these tech stocks. The VIX on the 2-hour, you really can just pay attention to if this is going to buy up. Is this going to get into positive territory, break through this trend? That could easily happen. I'm still leaning towards some kind of 30-minute pop and drop. So if this wants to get a solid pop here, come up into a point of resistance between these trend lines, Maybe even fill this gap first, right? We could come fill this gap first. The VIX does like to fill those gaps and then see that kind of subside. Really going to pay attention to my 30-minute, hourly, and 2-hour charts because this gap down here is still looking kind of inviting. If we get very bullish, we'd want to see this gap filled and then see that reaction of volatility, possibly before Thursday. So these are the things I'm paying attention to. We have a ton of divergences down here on the 30-minute, able to get into positive territory. We're going to see the VIX pop a little bit if that happens. So it's a time to be like, hey, this is a point where the 30-minute could roll over. That could roll over the 2-hour if the 30-minute can get into positive territory. And we actually might see the VIX going into a positive trend on the 2-hour as of tomorrow. 10-year getting a little bit more strength. So we have to be a little bit cautious going into these events because we are seeing the 10-year actually get a little bit of strength, and that's not necessarily a good thing for the market. It's not a good thing for the tech stocks. Pretty cool that we were able to actually come up and hit our price point, 4.362. You see that kind of fade off from that level. So that's very, very good. Thank you if you were here and subscribed for that info. Really do appreciate it. We might have to watch these rates in the morning with all these data drops on our live video, but I just appreciate you guys being here. And I wanted to tell you, hey, we saw a little tick up in this 10-year yield, but we're really going to see those reactions up or down once we start getting these data drops every day of this week. The main takeaway here is going into tomorrow, we are starting to get those data drops, and that's really what investors are waiting for until they decide whether they are going to buy, whether they are going to sell. So if we do see that price fluctuation, we could be getting some good news, some bad news throughout the week. So we really want to pay attention to if we are hitting those daily expected moves to the down or upside, or those weekly expected moves to the down or upside before these events come out, because people could be getting overly bearish, overly bullish before that news, and the options market has priced in exactly what they have priced in, and we know that data now. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please tune in to my live videos. I've been seeing a ton of people in there, and it's awesome. I really, really enjoy saying hi to you guys and talking about stocks every single day. It's a really, really fun opportunity that I was blessed to be able to have. So I really appreciate it, and I wish you guys all the luck in the world trading tomorrow, and I wish you guys to have a great, great night.